first day was cold, windy, and I three-putted the last 3 holes to shoot 75, and then we had to tee off real early in the morning and wanted to go to the press because, you know, they weren't going to like what I had to say. And so I finally go over there, and by that time I'd had 2 or 3 vodkas and 7-Ups, and I didn't really give a darn.
I don't need rules. That defiant attitude summed up Dave Hill's entire golf career. He wasn't just a PGA Tour professional. He was golf's ultimate agitator. Wherever Hill showed up, calm fairways turned tense, and quiet tournaments became battlegrounds. He challenged officials, mocked traditions, clashed with fellow players, and even sued the PGA itself. Yet Hill was never just noise. He had real talent. With 13 PGA Tour victories and the prestigious 1969 Vardon Trophy for lowest scoring average, he proved he belonged among the elite. Still, his sharp mouth and volatile temper earned him the nickname, the Don Rickles of golf. Hill's most infamous moment came during the 1970 U.S. Open at Hazeline. When reporters asked what he thought of the famous course, Hill didn't hesitate. He joked that he was still looking for it, then added the place needed about 80 acres of corn and a few cows. He even claimed the architect must have read the blueprints upside down. The PGA fined him $150, but the remark became legendary. From that point on, Dave Hill was officially golf's ultimate rebel. Ironically, Hill wasn't born confrontational. As a child, he struggled with bullying and a stutter that made him painfully shy. Those early insecurities forced him to build a tough exterior. Sports became his shield. In basketball, he learned quickly that aggression was survival. "I was a little guy," Hill once admitted. "I had to play rough or I'd get pushed off the court." He fouled out of most games, but the fire inside him never cooled. That same intensity followed Hill to the golf course. By 1961, when he captured his first PGA Tour win at the Tucson Open, his temper was already well known. Hill openly admitted, "When I get mad on the golf course, which is often, I feel mean." And he meant it. Over his career, he paid roughly $1,400 in fines, nearly half of a winner's check at the time. Most of those penalties came from snapping clubs, with the PGA charging about $100 for each broken putter. One of Hill's most shocking incidents occurred in 1963 at the Frank Sinatra Open Invitational. Still grieving the loss of his father and struggling with his game, Hill warned tour director Joe Black that if he missed his birdie putt on the 18th green, he would break his putter. When the ball refused to drop, Hill kept his word. He snapped the club clean over his knee and calmly finished the hole using only half of it. The crowd was stunned. The PGA was furious. Hill was suspended for 2 months, a clear reminder that his fiery nature came with consequences. Yet Hill insisted his outbursts weren't random. "If you bug me, I'll insult you and forget about it," he once said. Many people disliked his attitude, but Hill believed they were jealous, afraid to say what they truly felt. That blunt honesty became his trademark, even when it cost him popularity. Between 1970 and 1971, Hill's career entered its most turbulent phase. After the Hazeline controversy, frustration followed him everywhere. At a tournament in Palm Springs, his ball became stuck high in a palm tree. Everyone agreed it was his ball, but officials disqualified him because it wasn't personally marked. Hill was livid, insisting no rule required that type of marking at the time. That frustration exploded later that same year at the Colonial National Invitational. Already 16 over par, Hill reportedly played the final holes using only a 9-iron out of pure defiance. On the 18th hole, after his approach landed in a bunker with a brutal lie, Hill finally snapped. Completely fed up, he picked up his ball, tossed it onto the green, and casually tapped it in. The act stunned spectators and officials alike. He missed the cut with scores of 77 and 85 and was later disqualified for signing an incorrect scorecard. The chaos didn't end there. When Hill arrived at his next event, the Danny Thomas Memphis Classic, officials fined him $500 for conduct unbecoming a professional golfer and demanded payment before he could compete. Furious that no one allowed him to explain himself, Hill paid the fine but seethed with anger. And when Dave Hill got angry, something dramatic always followed. Less than a week after being fined at the Danny Thomas Memphis Classic, Dave Hill struck back in the most dramatic way possible. He filed a $1 million antitrust lawsuit against the PGA Tour's Tournament Players Division, accusing the organization of abusing its power. When the PGA responded by placing him on 1-year probation, Hill refused to back down. Instead, he escalated the fight, increasing the lawsuit to $3 million. The media exploded. Headlines painted Hill as golf's ultimate outlaw, a man openly challenging the establishment. The legal battle dragged on for months before both sides finally settled out of court. Hill was removed from probation, and the lawsuit disappeared from the headlines. Looking back later, Hill admitted he believed he could have won, but didn't want the stress hanging over his game. "I'm a golfer, not a political rabble-rouser," he wrote. Even so, controversy never seemed to leave him. Hill's fiery personality followed him beyond American soil. In 1971, during a tournament in Australia, he became locked in a bitter war of words with golf legend Peter Thomson. The tension grew so intense that when the two were paired together the following week, neither offered a handshake. They played the entire round in complete silence, an icy standoff that spectators would never forget. Hill's career was also filled with moments that were strange, funny, and uniquely his. One of the most bizarre came at the 1966 Thunderbird Classic. After a frustrating round, a fellow player asked what Hill had scored on the 18th hole. Hill sarcastically replied, 8, or maybe 1008. When handed his scorecard, he wrote a 10 in front of the 8 and signed for an absurd total of 178. Officials initially ruled him disqualified, but since he had signed for a higher score than he actually shot, they allowed the result to stand at a ridiculous 257. Only Dave Hill could turn a paperwork mistake into folklore. Despite the drama, Hill could still channel his anger into greatness. At the 1974 Houston Open, he openly admitted he was playing with a grudge against the Houston Golf Association over what he felt was disrespect the year before. Fueled by that determination, Hill delivered a stunning final round 65 and won the tournament by a single stroke. It was pure poetic justice and proof that when Hill played angry, he was dangerous. Age did little to cool him down. On the senior PGA Tour, Hill remained just as intense. During the 1991 Transamerica Senior Golf Championship, tensions erupted when fellow pro J.C. Snead's practice shots kept rolling toward Hill's position. Hill shouted for him to stop, but instead of calming the situation, the confrontation escalated. Hill grabbed a club and marched toward Snead. Within moments, punches were thrown, and officials had to pull them apart. It became yet another unforgettable chapter in Hill's long history of feuds. His relationships with other players were often rocky. One of the most talked-about clashes came in 1970 at the Greater Hartford Open, where Hill grew frustrated with Chi Rodriguez's crowd-pleasing antics. Hill believed the showmanship distracted him and cost him a chance at victory. The tension nearly boiled over on the course and later spilled into a heated locker room confrontation, reinforcing Hill's reputation as a man who never held his tongue. Still, beneath the controversies was an exceptional golfer. Hill's record spoke for itself: 13 PGA Tour wins, 6 Senior Tour victories, a Vardon Trophy, and appearances in 3 Ryder Cups representing the United States. He wasn't just loud, he was elite. Yet his fiery personality always overshadowed his achievements. As one publication wrote, Hill spent 2 decades lighting up the PGA Tour before his temper and sharp mouth finally pushed him into the background. Even after stepping away from full-time competition, Hill never faded completely. Reporters continued chasing his quotes because no one delivered honesty like he did. "I was just telling the truth," Hill once said. People didn't like hearing it. Off the course, he dabbled in business, offered occasional commentary, and attended charity events, often criticizing what he saw as modern golf's lack of grit. What made Hill truly fascinating was his unpredictability. One day he'd charm an audience with self-deprecating humor, and the next he'd snap at an interviewer for asking the wrong question. His critics called him hot-headed. His supporters saw a man who refused to play politics. Younger players quietly admired him for proving golf didn't have to be buttoned up and silent. As the years passed, stories about Dave Hill became campfire tales told in clubhouses. He became shorthand for golf's wild side, a man who made headlines for both brilliance and blow-ups. Friends said that beneath the sarcasm was a fierce competitor who hated losing more than anything. He replayed bad rounds in his head for days, obsessed with every missed shot. He loved the game deeply, even if he despised hypocrisy. Hill passed away on September 27, 2011, at the age of 74. The golf world didn't just lose a player, it lost a character. In his hometown of Jackson, Michigan, he was remembered with pride and affection. Dave Hill never won a major, but one brutally honest comment at Hazeline ensured he'd never be forgotten. Love him or hate him, he stayed true to himself to the very end, and that authenticity is why his legend still echoes through the fairways.